hit some anytime goal scorers as well as safe shots on goal for some of these goalies. Give me both teams to score in the first period. That's coming in at plus 185 compared to the over 1.5 that is at minus 120. Okay, you guys ready? Let's make some freaking money. It's time for Pocket with Joe. Hey, what's up, guys? Happy Monday. It's Monday, November 3rd. It's time for Pocket with Joe over here on YouTube. I hope everyone is having a great start to November thus far. Kev, good morning. Let's get to work. Let's make some freaking money out there on the ice now. Of course, we got a loaded slate for tomorrow, but today we do have 4 games on deck. I've got one dog that I think is barking. I got a home favorite. I've got first period totals. I've got it all for you here on Pocket with Joe. So make sure you guys do stick around. I will bookmark this show as I grab my paper, bookmark the show, and I will also have the recap at the end. So if you can't stick around for the whole thing and you want to come back and then just look at those games that you're looking at, I don't blame you out there. Let's make some freaking money. That ice is absolutely going to be hot today. So let's jump into what I'm looking at here. The 4 games on the ice. We got the Pittsburgh Penguins coming off the loss on Saturday to the Winnipeg Jets, rolling into Toronto to take on the Leafs. Now, in that game, they were only able to get 2 goals. Remember, we took the Winnipeg Jets first period puck line and the full game puck line. We were able to cash on that. The Pittsburgh Penguins, though, with Sidney Crosby, have been freaking amazing this season, overachieving expectations. And I do love their ability to come in here and score on Stallars. So they're coming in at plus 155. The Toronto Maple Leafs are minus 188. This total's high at 6.5, but it makes sense why the total is high unless we see Tristan Jarry stand on his head. I do think this one could start off with a bang. I'm looking at a first period bet here. I do think both teams can get on the board, especially with the Pittsburgh Penguins coming off that loss to the Winnipeg Jets. They're going to look to hit Stallars. Now, Stallars has a 3.13 goals against average and an 893 save percentage on the season. The power play hasn't been great here for Toronto. It's only converting at 12.5%. They're averaging 29.5 shots on goal per game. They do have a solid kill at 83.3%, but we look at the power play here for the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's the second best in the league, converting 32.3% of the time. I look at what Sid's been able to do and the amount of goals he has on the season. He scored at least 1 goal in 6 of the Penguins' last 7 games as an underdog, and he is one of 3 players out there that have 9 goals. That's Jack Hughes, Caulfield, Nathan McKinnon, so 1 of 4 that do have 9 goals in the season. He is killing it, and I do think he continues to do so. So I'm looking for Sidney Crosby to be impactful for the Pittsburgh Penguins and this Penguins team to play solid. Now, one thing that's a little concerning here with their schedule. So this is game 4 of 4 out there on the road. They're 2-1 on the season, and this is why I'm not doing a full game bet here. On Thursday, they're at home versus the Capitals. That's a battle of the Metro. You guys, that scares me a little bit, that look-ahead situation with the last of the road games. So I'm going to look at the first period over 1.5. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a 3-leg 1-unit bet here. The first of the 1 unit is the over 1.5. It's juicy at minus 156. Then I'll do over 2.5 goals at plus 200. And then the both teams to score in the first period at plus 142. So still only 1 unit on that first period, but 3 different ways. So a third of a unit on each. So again, that's over 1.5 goals in the first period at minus 156. Over 2.5 goals at plus 200 and both teams to score in the first period at plus 142. I do think this is a 2-1 first period. Could it be a 3-0 first period if we see Toronto just come out and dominate here at home in the first period and the Penguins start off slow because of the look ahead with the Battle of the Metro, the last game out on the road? Yeah, it could be. And I do like, and that's why I like the over 2.5 as well as the over 1.5 and both teams to score, because I could see this going in a couple different directions, but all of those directions point to goals in that first period. So the over 1.5, the over 2.5, and both teams to score in the first period. all coming in at plus money except for that over 1.5. The books will get you there. So we do have Toronto home off of a 2-game road trip. It was a short road trip. They have Utah on a Wednesday, the Bruins on Saturday, the Canes on Sunday. They've won the last 5 first periods versus the Metro. So if you just want to look at Toronto first period, that is your trend. They have failed to cover the puck line in their last 5 games at home, but they're 7-3 on the money line the last 10 versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. The problem here with them on the money line, you guys, you know, at minus 188, and that juice keeps ticking up as the day goes on. It was minus 177. I don't blame you not making any NHL bets. It's a small slate with only 4 games on deck. You just want your Kraken to defeat Chicago. Let's go, Brandon Montour and Vince Dunn. Yeah, I could see Seattle coming out nice and strong. Chicago's being playing tight. So a little bit of a worry there for the Seattle Kraken with how tight Chicago has been. Let's look at the next game. First, let's look at goal scorers other than Sidney Crosby. Of course, I'll look at Sidney Crosby for the Pittsburgh Penguins. On the other side here for Toronto, because I think those goals are coming hot and fast. And if you just want to look at Toronto team total, I don't blame you either. But Matthew Knives for the goal, he's scored in 5 of the last 6 he's played against Pittsburgh. I do think Knives has been so impactful for this team. I love that he signed that contract with them. And then Austin Matthews. We know Austin Matthews looked great this weekend. He was able to net one. He was just firing at will. So I do like that. If you look at Tavares has been accumulating those shots on goal each and every single game. So I think Knives would be my primary target. I will take him for goal. I look at Austin Matthews as well, and then John Tavares. So those are the 3 playmakers I'll look at for Toronto. And then I just want to take Sidney Crosby here for the Pittsburgh Penguins. You got Nylander. Still question marks on if Nylander, I'm seeing him listed as day-to-day. Hopefully he is hitting the ice, but I don't blame you. As long as William Nylander is out there, he's going to be so strong for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And there's not a situation here that I don't love Toronto to be able to come out nice and strong. I do think they have all the playmakers. They're at home. They're home off 2 on the road. They've got Utah on Wednesday, the Bruins on Saturday, Canes on Sunday. It's not like Utah is a team that they're looking ahead to, while the Penguins have the Battle of the Metro with the Capitals on Thursday at home. And this is the last game of a road trip. So I do think it plays out 4-3 style win, or this could be a 3-2 style win, but I do expect that first period to be hot and then a lockdown. Next game on deck is the Vancouver Canucks taking on the Nashville Predators. You guys, the Vancouver Canucks coming in here off a couple of losses. Same with the Nashville Predators. We're looking at the lines on this one. It's a straight pick 'em now, minus 110 to either side. This total is low, and that is rightly so, right? Minus 5.5, minus 118 to the over, minus 104 to the under. Demko versus Saros, both of these goaltenders have that strong ability to stand on their head. You look at the Preds and you look at their kill. Their kill ability is 88.4%, 6th best in the league. And I do think we see that lockdown on the defensive side. Now, Vancouver is dealing with some injuries. We know Quinn Hughes out of the lineup. Roman Josi also out of the lineup here for the Nashville Predators. Their captain, that's hugely impactful for this team. But I do think the Predators have every opportunity of getting the win. We look at the Predators and we look at this team's kill and then their ability to limit those shots. They're holding opponents to that 29.5 shots on goal per game. Now, neither of these teams have elite power plays. Conversion here for Vancouver at 16.7, while we're seeing the Preds coming in at 12.5. So not strong power plays. I do think this should be a lower scoring game. We are seeing this game 3 for the Vancouver Canucks on the road. They're 1-1 on the season. And then when we look at the Nashville Predators, they are off the win versus the Calgary Flames this weekend. It was a 4-2 win at home, but they had lost their 3 prior. So those 3 prior were really against tough competition. And you look at their schedule right now, this is a little bit of a reprieve after what we saw out there in their last 3 before the Calgary win. They had the Stars, the Lightning, and the Flyers. So really hard games in which they did take those losses. Now, this is the first night of a back-to-back. They are at the Wild tomorrow. That's a battle, the Central. There is that look-ahead spot, but the Nashville Predators sitting 4-3 at 4-3-1 at home this season, 5-6-2. They know they need every single win they can get. Can they get the win over the Vancouver Canucks? I do think so. I know the values on Vancouver coming in here. They have covered the puck line in the last 8 in Nashville, so they're playing in tight games. But I do think this is just game 3 out there on the road for the Vancouver Canucks. The Predators can get it done. Now, if someone's going to step up for Vancouver, Sherwood, for his point tonight, you're going to get a good value on that. He's been playing strong, and he is versus his former team. So Sherwood did play for the Predators. So I would look there with Sherwood, but I think the Predators and the under is where I have to go with this game. So the under 5.5 coming in at -104. If you want to do a first period under, those first periods, you take out the fact of that empty netter. And I'd hate to lose the 5.5 because of a 4-2, but I do think this is more 3-2 style, keeping us under that total. There you go. You're coming in with Sherwood anytime goal against the Preds. Yeah, versus his former team. You got to look at these players to really step up. I do like Stamkos for the anytime goal as well. Blake, let me know what you're getting for Stamkos for that anytime goal. And you know the deal. Let's make some freaking money here on Monday. Monday, first bucket with Joe of November. Let's turn to the next game on deck. And again, I'm not going heavy on that game. It's not my favorite game, Vancouver versus the Predators, but I do think we have a home dog here in the St. Louis Blues versus the Edmonton Oilers. And before you go, what? Well, Edmonton starts off the season slow, but this team is really clicking offensively. You got to love what they're doing on the power play. Best power play in the league, converting 33.3%. St. Louis doesn't take a ton of penalties, though, you guys. They stay out of that freaking box. And if they don't go in the box, this team can play strong 5-on-5 hockey. They're more defensive. Robert Thomas looking to get back into this lineup today. Not 100% confirmation that he will be back in the lineup, but I'm pretty sure he will. And then Jordan Kyrou always steps up versus the Edmonton Oilers. I think the St. Louis Blues are a great price here at +112 at home. Think about it this way. Why is Edmonton only a -134 favorite? Why aren't the books making them a $2 favorite against a team that's lost, their last 7 games in a row here with the St. Louis Blues? The books, I tell you, they know what they're doing here. At +112, I'll take a shot on the St. Louis Blues. This total sitting at 6.5. It's -132 to the under. It's +108 to the over. I tell you, the Blues can't get in a goal fest here with the Edmonton Oilers. The one thing about the Oilers is the scheduling spot freaking sucks for them. They take on the St. Louis Blues tonight. Tomorrow, they have the Stars on deck, and then the Avs on Saturday. I do think the Edmonton Oilers off an overtime win at home versus Chicago, heading out on the road, and then the Stars tomorrow, and then back home for Saturday versus the Avs. This is a perfect recipe for the St. Louis Blues to get out of the loss column. And again, they've lost their last 7, so really hard to take them here versus the Edmonton Oilers team, especially when you look at Edmonton, that power play 33.3%, but also the kill of the St. Louis Blues only 69.7. But like I said, the Blues don't spend a ton of time in the box. They're one of the best teams at making sure they're not giving their opponent the one-man advantage. So Jordan Binnington between the pipes, he needs to step up because we know Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl are going to be firing in this one. Binnington has a 3.21 goals against average and a 860 save percentage. Stuart Skinner, 900 save percentage and a 2.52 goals against average. The over has been a solid trend. We have seen St. Louis games go over in 8 of their last 12, but that's because they're allowing 4.17 goals against average. It's awful. I know it's an awful number. They're holding opponents to only 25.6 shots on goal, though. So in this game, defense has to be the primary reason the St. Louis Blues win. If you like St. Louis, if you're a little scared about straight up on the money line, just take the under, because for St. Louis to win, they have to keep it low scoring. Yeah, they absolutely have a punching chance. That is for sure. We can definitely get that player point parlay up at the end, Mo. I will do that for you. You are so welcome. You guys are great. Too bad Quinn isn't playing. I know. Quinn Hughes has been solid versus the Predators for the Vancouver Canucks. But yeah, we're not seeing him in the lineup. And Stamkos for that anytime goal, Blake, coming in up +260. Got to love Steven Stamkos and his ability out there in that game. Okay, let's move on to the last game out there, you guys. It is a short, quick slate. We have the Vancouver, or no, we already talked Vancouver. We got the Chicago Blackhawks versus the Seattle Kraken. Now, the Kraken are a favorite at home. They're minus 152 here against a Chicago Blackhawks team that's scrappy. They keep these games tight. They are plus 126. I wanted Chicago on the puck line, and I was hoping the books would just neglect to look at the fact that Chicago keeps all their games tight. But that puck line plus 1.5, minus 205. Live betting opportunity if we do see the Kraken go up first in this game. But I don't know, you guys. Something about this Kraken team, and I know you guys are fans out there. Joey Decord doesn't give me a lot of faith. They are sitting 3-0-2 at home on the season, 5-2-4 overall. This team has been great against the spread, 9-2 against the spread this season. And Chicago has been 10-2 against the spread. So that's covering that puck line, 5-1 out there on the road. Chicago just went to OT versus the Edmonton Oilers. They did take the loss, so they lost their last two now. That was an overtime loss, 3-2. They're on a long road trip. We look at them. Their next game is on Wednesday versus Vancouver. Then they're back in Alberta to face Calgary on Friday. Then they're at the Red Wings on Sunday, and then this team gets to head home. Chicago has that fast speed. They're able to move quickly through that neutral zone, but we know the Seattle Kraken are great at that in their zone presence. They're able to get those strong forechecks as well. So this game is going to come down to who makes mistakes out there. We got Spencer Knight between the pipes for the Chicago Blackhawks, Joey Decord here for the Seattle Kraken. I do think this line is priced right. Seattle at home, that last change has the advantage, but I can't lay minus 150-ish here with the Seattle Kraken. They've got the Sharks on deck on Wednesday. They are coming off an overtime loss versus the Rangers on Saturday, 3-2 if you lose to the Rangers. Chicago should be able to do something, especially with how hard they played in that last game. We do see again the Kraken with the Sharks on Wednesday. That should be a game that they can really dig down. They will be at home in that one, should be able to get something done. They're only averaging, though, 23.9 shots on goal per game, and that gives me a little bit of fear. Their power play does connect at 21.9%, so stronger power play here, but we do have a great kill for Chicago. Chicago's kill is actually 82%, while the kill for the Seattle Kraken is 67.9. I think the more and more I talk about this game, the more and more I'm willing to just jump on Chicago at plus 126, because I do think you're getting the best of the number at plus 126 for the Chicago Blackhawks to roll into Seattle and get this win. Like I said, they're going to be at Vancouver on Wednesday. Vancouver will be returning home. It's going to be a hard game. Quinn Hughes should be back in the lineup for them. The Chicago Blackhawks need this win here. So I do think we look at Chicago. I've got to go there. They covered the puck line in their last 6 games off of OT. They have lost their last 5 meetings here in Seattle, though. This is a hard place for them to play. Now, if you just want to look at Chicago first period, this is a great bet, and I really love it just because of this trend as well. You look at the Seattle Kraken off of overtime. They've struggled in those first periods, losing their last 4 first periods off of overtime. They start off really slow in their game. So looking at Chicago first period might be a better way, because I do think this one comes right down to the wire. And I can see the Kraken winning that, but Chicago covering that puck line. So live betting opportunity here on Chicago when the Kraken go up is where I'm going to go. Yeah, the Pittsburgh Penguins, they're a nice dog today. That is for sure. Vinny, you lean the Blackhawks too. Yeah, I just think Chicago, with how this team is playing, with Connor Bedard, Tara Vinen, I think they have every opportunity to pull something off tonight. And so I'll be looking at Chicago to get it done. Okay. It is a recap time, you guys. We've flown through the show today, and rightly so. So we'll do the recap here, and then we're going to go into the player point parlay for you guys. So recap time. We're going to fly, you guys. Are you ready for this one? The Pittsburgh Penguins versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think we start off with a bang. Give me the over 1.5 goals in the first period at minus 156 for a third of a unit. Give me over 2.5 goals in the first period for a third of a unit at plus 200, and both teams to score in the first period for a third of a unit at plus 142. At this point, I do think the goals slow down, so I'd be looking at a live betting opportunity to the under if it hits a 7.5. Give me Sidney Crosby for an anytime goal for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Give me Matthew Knies for an anytime goal for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Austin Matthews and Tavares would be the other playmakers I would look at for Toronto. The Vancouver Canucks versus the Nashville Predators. Give me the Predators on the money line at -122 and the under 5.5. I do think, though, you got to look at the trend of Sherwood, how strong he has been. His point tonight is getting you plus money. He's facing his former team here. So you can see Sherwood step up for the Vancouver Canucks versus the Nashville Predators. The Edmonton Oilers versus the St. Louis Blues. The dogs are barking. St. Louis losing their last 7 are a home dog. And why are the books only making Edmonton -130-ish favorite? St. Louis to get the win tonight. I'll take them straight up on the money line at +112. Robert Thomas expected to be back in this lineup. Jordan Kyrou has scored in each of the Blues' last 2 games versus the Oilers. I will take Kyrou for the anytime goal. I would take Robert Thomas, Kyrou, and Dylan Holloway all for a point tonight. Now, if Edmonton gets on that power play, you know Connor McDavid has every ability to come out firing. The power play is weak here for the St. Louis Blues, and Edmonton's power play is best in the league. But St. Louis takes very, very limited penalties. If you see St. Louis coming out and having issues out there on the ice, a live bet on the power play point for Connor McDavid with frustrations definitely would be worth a look, but I don't think St. Louis gives him the opportunities. The Chicago Blackhawks versus the Seattle Kraken. You guys talked it out with me. You made me take it. I'm taking the Chicago Blackhawks +126 on the money line. I do think this is a 1-goal game. It's a fair price here for the Seattle Kraken, but with how tight these two teams both do play on that puck line, it's a 1-goal game, and we know puck luck comes into play. I love the rush, and I do think Connor Bedard's going to be strong moving the puck through the neutral zone, so I will take Chicago on the money line. Now, if the Seattle Kraken go up first, and we're getting Chicago at +1.5 for a good price, that is where I will go as well. Dylan Holloway versus his old team. Great reminder that Dylan Holloway used to play there for the Edmonton Oilers. I totally had that slip my mind. So let's build those player prop long shot parlays. If I can talk, player prop long shot parlays. Can you tell I didn't do very much talking this weekend, you guys? I am going to look first. Ooh, I want to take Sidney Crosby for the goal. We know that already. Let's look at the player points. So we are at the 22-23 minute mark. Okay, this is all long shot player points, you guys. I'm going to look at Sidney Crosby, even though he's juicy at -205. And then Matthew Knies there for the Toronto Blue Jays. Oh, Toronto Maple Leafs are the reason the Jays lost too. I just truly believe that. Toronto Maple Leafs. My poor Jays. I tell you, that was a hard one to see them lose that game. Sorry, guys. I'm just clearing off a couple of things on my sports book here so I can build this parlay. If you just take Crosby for the point and Matthew Knies for the point for the Leafs, Crosby for the Penguins, it's coming in at +121. You know we're not going to stop there, though. I do think you look at the Edmonton game versus St. Louis. I think St. Louis is barking. Like I told you guys, we're going to get great value on Jordan Kyrou for the anytime point. I do think he's impactful in this one. You guys threw out Dylan Holloway. He's -115. I think that is a great bet as well for him. Now, I'm not seeing Robert Thomas listed as of yet, but he definitely has been impactful out there. I'm going to throw Jordan Kyrou into the mix. For Chicago and the Seattle Kraken, my player point tonight is, oh, that's first period. I was like, why are they giving us Connor Bedard for +700? He's -200. Frank Nazar, though, man, I tell you, Frank Nazar coming in at -130 is a solid look, but I like Teravainen. And even though Teravainen's getting us plus money, I think Teravainen comes out nice and strong in this game. Quickly, we'll look at the Preds and Vancouver. Like I said, for Vancouver and the Preds, I think this is a lower scoring one. So I'm less interested in those player points in this. But if I had to look at someone, you know, Forsberg, he's been so strong for the Preds, and Ryan O'Reilly. Jonathan Marchessault is -111. Sherwood's coming in at that -108 mark. And because we talk so much about him, I got to put Sherwood in to this long shot parlay. So I do have a 5-leg long shot parlay. Are you guys ready for it? A $10 bet returns 153, so it's plus 1530, all for the player point. Matthew Knives for a point, Sidney Crosby for a point, Jordan Kyrou for a point, Tara Vinen for a point, and Sherwood for a point. So one more time, Matthew Knives of Toronto for a point, Sidney Crosby of Pittsburgh for a point, Jordan Kyrou of the St. Louis Blues for a point, Tara Vinen of the Chicago Blackhawks for a point, and Sherwood of the Vancouver Canucks for a point. So that is your 5-leg long shot power play points, or not power play, just player prop points, you guys. I told you it's a mouthful. Those anytime goals, though, Matthew Knives, Sidney Crosby, my 2 favorite for those goals tonight, both coming in that Penguins and Leafs game. So there we go. You guys, let me know which leg fails. Oh, Brandon Montour. Okay. Let's throw Brandon Montour in for the point. I got a soft spot for Brandon Montour. I think he is a fantastic player out there. Brandon Montour for the point. If you guys throw that into your long shot parlay, if I can just grab it here. Again, I keep going to the first period. There's my points. I do like Brandon Montour. He's coming in at minus 108. So that takes a 5-leg up to a 6-leg. And now that $10 pays you back to 65.71. So it's plus 26.57. And that's adding Brandon Montour of the Seattle Kraken. So that's a 6-legger if you're willing to go there. Let me know what you're liking. I'm glad you love Kyrou. I love Jordan Kyrou to be really impactful in this game. Kyrou for the goal is my 3rd favorite goal scorer of the night, you guys. It should be a hot night out there on the ice. Below this video, let me know who you're liking. Who is in my NHL player point survivor over on Splash Sports? If you are a part of that, there's only 4 people left. I had Trevor Seagrass yesterday to get a point for the Flyers. He was unable to do so. I was kind of disappointed out there. Yeah, and I like when those parlay points, I like those parlay points. It absolutely should cash. One more time, you guys. Matthew Knives of Toronto, Sidney Crosby of the Penguins, Tara Vinen of the Chicago Blackhawks, Brandon Montour, if you want to throw him in, of the Seattle Kraken, and then Jordan Kyrou of the St. Louis Blues, and Sherwood versus his former team, so Vancouver for the Preds. So the 2 legs I'm most worried about would be Montour and Sherwood. So if you take out those 2 legs, that drops you to a 4-legger coming in at plus 746. So $10 for 74. You guys, all the best in all of your bets. Still the Jays. Still choked over the Jays. I'm still choked over the Jays too. It was heartbreaking, you guys. It looked like we had it. When anything looks that easy, it is just absolutely brutal, right? You guys, all the best in all of your bets. Thank you once again for joining me here on Puck It with Joe. If you could do me a solid, hit that like, hit the notification button so you know when we do go live tomorrow. We got a loaded day out there on the ice, so make sure you do join me for that. Again, if you're putting in any parlays today, if you're in my NHL point survivor still, let me know. I want to hear. There's only 4 of you left. So I couldn't believe I got out so quick with Trevor Seagrass not getting that point. But you guys, let's make some freaking money. I will see you tomorrow here on Puck It with Joe. And yeah, all the best to each and every single one of you out there. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you tomorrow.